everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Rookies podcast. I am Olivia Sala. Joining me are, of course, Tristan Tata and Anne Lewicki. On today's episode, we will be discussing sponsorship. Sponsorship is a big part of what we do here at Cosmos, and today we have 5 very special guests from our sponsorship team to share their perspectives on what exactly sponsorship entails and the different ways in which businesses can build stronger relationships through sponsorship. So let's start by introducing today's guests. We have our veterans, Ned Jogo, Mitchell Dumichel, and Michael Hunter. Ned is a corporate account executive for Cosmos and has been with the company for just over a year and a half. Mitch is our senior sponsorship analyst and proposal guru. And Michael is one of our senior account executives and just, newly coming in to the sponsorship side of things. So excited to have you guys on to share your expertise. On our rookie side, we have Mackenzie Holden and Vishwa Mistry, who are 2 of our account executives for the fall internship program here at Cosmos, and who work closely with our sponsorship team to help generate leads for potential partnerships between other businesses and our clients. And I know that Anne and Tristan as well work closely with the sponsorship team, so they'll have some things to say here too. So welcome everyone to the Rookies podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get right into it. I know that you guys are very familiar with what sponsorship is and that there's a lot that goes into it. So we're going to try and cover as much as we can in this episode, but I wanted to start off by asking you guys, what is sponsorship?
I'd say it's like a mutually beneficial partnership that strives to kind of tell a story that ties to like 2 properties together, or in our case, a property and a brand. And through that story, you're able to reach, a whole new audience that you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, and we're in a unique situation too with sport and entertainment, because we can activate the sponsors like really no one else can. Like we can put it's as easy as just putting up their logo on like on a rink board or something like that. But we can create these activations where fans can actually engage with the sponsor's product or service. And it just makes for really, like Ned said, it's mutually beneficial because the sponsor is getting engagement, getting their product in the hands, but it's also creating that unique experience for the fan.
I think going off of Mitch's point there, it's all about the value. And I know in some of our training sessions, Terry has said, like the buyer must receive as much value as the seller. And so it's going beyond just maybe that logo on the rink board, as Mitch was saying, but it's doing that whole experience and making sure that's a good partnership both ways.
Awesome, great. So how exactly do you go about looking for sponsorship? What do you do to have to get started?
Yeah, so I mean, our approach now is looking at categories. So just like kind of under my list, there's insurance, auto, telecommunications, et cetera, and identifying categories where you think there is opportunity, where brands do want to engage, in our case with sports and entertainment in that world, and reach those audiences. So I think really delving into those categories and exhausting those categories, finding all the potential brands you can, whether it's tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 brands, and then from there, you go into reach out, which is a whole other thing. But I think it's first identifying, a specific area, and then really exhausting that area before you get into it.
Yeah, and I think it's also like, because sports is such a unique category, a lot of these brands haven't even worked with sports before. So in our case with Cosmos, we have so many sports properties. So it's like a really unique experience for these brands to work with sports. And I think that's one thing that like it's good to look out for if they've never worked in sports, especially with Cosmos, because we can offer so many properties that they can work with. And I think that's really helpful for them. And it's just like a unique category for the target audience and stuff. So I think that's one thing to look out for if they've never worked with sports, and just our properties here at Cosmos. It just makes a unique experience for these brands.
I was just going to say, as Vish was saying, like a lot of the brands we're reaching out to, maybe they don't have that experience in sponsorship marketing or with sports. So I think part of that outreach is so crucial to communicate the benefits to the company, because of course some companies are super familiar and they kind of have their tested and proven strategy, but then some of these brands have no idea like what it all entails. And I think that communication to those brands that are maybe new to the sponsorship space is really important.
Yeah, and to jump off Mackenzie's point there, I completely agree with that. When I was reaching out to real estate groups, it's about kind of tailoring that outreach, because a lot of those people, they just want to put their face up on city benches and park benches and stuff like that. So it's about really kind of communicating that they can differentiate their approach when they do sports sponsorship, and that's kind of where you have to identify those different areas that we can actually provide value to the groups that we're reaching out to.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar to Mackenzie and Michael there, because our head of partnerships, Gavin Roth, he's a huge advocate of finding that targeted approach with determining their corporate social responsibility or their pain points that each company has, whether it's employee outings or looking to join a cause or anything like that. So it's just kind of tailoring that approach, doing a little bit of research, finding out what it is, and then doing that outreach and seeing how we can help.
Awesome. And so, Ned, you mentioned that, you have your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 kind of brands and companies. Can you just kind of explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. So it's like a tier 1 property would be the Toronto Raptors or the Maple Leafs, or the Blue Jays. Tier 1 brand would be, your big banks, CIBC, RBC, whoever it is. So your tier 2s are really, so we represent those kind of tier 2, tier 3 properties in, ultimate frisbee, cricket, ECHL hockey, whatever it is. And which I think to us is an advantage if we're reaching out to those tier 2 brands. So that might not be your top 5 bank. It might be the number 9th bank in Canada, whatever it is, who aren't necessarily even trying to reach that level, but do want to differentiate themselves in some way and attach themselves to a unique audience, right? So yeah, I think that's kind of the difference between the kind of tier 1s and tier 2s. And I think in sponsorship you see a lot where tier 1s partner with tier 1s and tier 2s with tier 2s, but I think with us there's that unique opportunity to really grow with another brand that's in a similar position to us.
Awesome. And so, Mackenzie and Vish, can you tell us about some of the categories that you've been working on, and for which clients, and maybe just tell us kind of what you guys have been doing within those categories?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I have the awesome privilege, but I'm working with Jordan Fun, who's also on the sponsorship team. But so we're responsible for energy drinks, auto groups, snack brands, healthy snack brands, credit unions, and like school supplies, and there's just a few others in there. And so really, he's really let me kind of go off on my own, which is awesome in an intern role. But so it mostly consists of doing that mining and that research. So figuring out, who are big companies, big brands, or even, as Ned was saying, like maybe the tier 2s in that industry, and then finding a good point of contact. But you're not going to send it off to the president. You want someone that is really going to look at it and from their own experiences know the value proposition in there, and it won't have to be passed through like whatever hierarchy the company has. So it's finding that good point of contact, and then drafting up an email or maybe a phone call to that individual and explaining the benefits. And right now, I know, at least for me, we're kind of doing a portfolio-wide approach. So within that outreach email or that call, it's explaining all the different properties we work with. And then, instead of just going to them with just one single one, say the Toronto Rush, it's, kind of encompassing everything and showing that brand all we have to offer. And then, taking that conversation from all those options to maybe refining it. But I think it's a really good tactic to start with that wide approach.
Yeah, and for me, so I've been working under Mitch, aka the proposal guru, So I've actually been making the proposals and decks for these companies that like Mackenzie, Michael, Ned, Tristan reach out to, and Anne. So like some decks, a lot of like food stuff. So there was a brand called like Hippie Snacks. They do a lot of healthy snacks and like vegan stuff. There's Osmos, for example, so a little bigger company. There's also like beer companies, so one called Cowbell. There's a coffee brand called Rise Brewing. And right now I'm actually working on a LED lighting brand called Nanoleaf. So yeah, just making decks for all those companies that others have reached out to. I have done a little researching on companies such as like home efficiency. So I made a list, and like for example, Tristan would follow up on that and reach out to those. So I've mainly been working like decks and stuff, but I have got my feet a little wet for outreach and stuff.
Awesome. And so is there anything that has stood out to you guys so far in just doing your research or findings of these companies, and how you can try to build those relationships? Like how do you kind of try to make those connections?
I think what stood out to me the most is once you're doing research into brands, you realize the sponsorship industry is kind of evolving to no stone left unturned. So I came across like the official collagen of the Chicago Cubs, and like just to think like brands are using every avenue they can possibly find to be maybe the official like partner or sponsor of something. And it's really showing, like before it was all about, you know, out of home and just having your name or your logo out there for eyes, but now it's really like aligning yourself with a team or something else and trying to reach consumers that way. So I guess I just didn't really grasp like just how big the sponsorship space is and how many things there are to sponsor.
I did want to go to Anne, because I know that you are working with Jasleen on the South Asian brand side of things for sponsorship. So maybe can you tell us what that experience has been like for you and what you've been doing?
Yeah, it's been a little different for me just because it's a little outside of my comfort zone. All the sponsorship I've done before has been very centric to my university in Guelph and very sports centric around that. So I've really been enjoying sort of getting to experience this entire new market that I didn't know before, and just seeing some of the different trends there are in the activations, and how so much, like even with COVID, obviously, as some of the other people have mentioned, there's not as much live activations, but before that, how immersed some of these South Asian brands get in local festivals and involved with like student programs, and just seeing the different levels there. I think it's really cool, and the fact that I get to also look at how activations are actually taking place in the South Asian market overseas, and the difference sort of how that transfers over to Canada. And there's some really cool transfers there that I'm finding. And just really the chance to compare and contrast the two different types of markets and how we can implement some of those trends over here to make them stand out with activations, that I'm finding really cool with it.
Great. So you have your category, you've done your research, and now it's time to reach out to these businesses and try to set up an initial meeting or call to discuss a potential partnership. So my question is, what does that initial meeting look like? I know that Ned, you do quite a few of these, so maybe you can talk to that, and then maybe if any of the rookies want to jump in and talk about their experiences being on these calls as well, you can do that after. So Ned?
Yeah, for sure. So in like the last, especially since kind of COVID started, we've really, I guess beginning of the year really, we kind of put out like a sheet that outlines the different things that we want to learn from the prospect. So, you know, something like marketing goals, marketing challenges, if they've done sponsorship in the past, what their target audience is, all these kind of things. So really, I think these meetings, I think when some people that don't necessarily work in our industry, or some interns going in, they kind of think that it's like a serious meeting, that it's super kind of business-like. It's really a lot more relaxed than that, and they're really looking to see if there's an opportunity, and so are we, right? If there isn't a fit, then we understand that. So the calls are actually pretty relaxed. I enjoy them. I like learning about different categories and brands. So really the beginning is just building kind of a quick rapport. You know, now it's really, because everything's so virtual, you can talk about where they're based, you know, how everything's going on with the COVID situation and all that, build some rapport. And then you get into the questions, and it's all kind of pretty relaxed. And they know, you know, what they're talking about, they know their brands. So then once you get into that, you talk about the properties and whatnot, and they tell you what they like. And then from there, I'm sure we'll get into it with the overviews and proposals and all that. But yeah, it's one of those things where you don't have to think too much about it. It's two people going into a meeting with a goal, and yeah, I know. I mean, Tristan's been on quite a few with me as well, and I think he's learned that pretty quickly. So yeah, no, it's relaxed. I wouldn't say it's easy, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy going.
Yeah, so I would jump off Ned's point and say that my favorite part about those meetings is kind of learning about the best practices in marketing for those groups. The two meetings that I've had with Alterna and Nanoleaf, they've sponsored a fair bit and done a fair bit of work in that space. So just kind of learning about what they've done in the past. So Nanoleaf had worked with the Houston Astros this past year, and just kind of learning about how that partnership worked and stuff like that was really cool to be a part of. And you definitely, it's definitely pretty lighthearted meetings. People really like to talk about their own company and their own group. So it's really easy to get through those. And Gavin is great to be on those calls with, because he's got a great sense of humor and he's got some great stories to jump into those meetings with. So it's been fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's like my favorite part, to be honest, is just like learning about like what they do, what they like to do, what their lives are like. Like, for example, even like a call that like I knew it wasn't really going to go further, but like we still like just like to chat. Like for one example, was like a consulting. I think it was just like a media group, which we would never like partner with, but he like told us about how he used to like organize this camp with like Michael Jordan, and just stuff like that is honestly like my favorite part about it, is just like chatting and getting to know these people.
Great. So you've done the initial meeting, and if there's interest there on both sides, now you kind of go into the proposal stage. And I know that this is kind of where Mitch and Vish, the two of you, come in. So what does the proposal stage look like?
Yeah, so what the guys kind of do for us, they lay it all out nicely. So we, like Ned said, we have that sponsorship brief. It's got all the answers we could ever need and want about the prospect. So they'll send that over, and then it's usually setting up a call with myself, Vish, and then the sponsorship rep, whether it's Michael, it's Ned, Jordan, Jasmine, and any one of those guys there, and then Gavin's on the call as well. So we just kind of talk through that sponsorship brief, talk about what we want to put in the proposal. So whether it's an overview, which is just kind of sample about our properties, just kind of one page about who they are and maybe some thought starters, or if they want a more detailed proposal with a proposed benefits package and a price for things like that. So we'll have that conversation, and then me and Vish will kind of delegate things out and just kind of build the proposal from there. And Evan Colburn, when I first came on to Cosmos, he kind of taught me everything I know now. He taught me about that the proposal needs to be all about the brand. So when we're building these proposals, the first thing we're doing is going to their website, using their logo as much as possible throughout the presentation. Going to their website, look at the color schemes. He's even taught me there's a Google extension called What Font, where you can actually you can go on their website, see what fonts they use, anything we can do to familiarize them and make it so personalized that it kind of stands out to them when they look at it. So just things like that. I enjoy making them. And Vish has been doing a great job since he came on board 2 months ago. And yeah, that's pretty much the process.
Yeah, so just to bounce off what Mitch said, so when we're in those meetings, we decide whether it's like an overview, like a property overview, or like a full out proposal. So if it's like just an overview, we'll just break down each property that we have for them, and just giving info about how each property could benefit them. Or if it's a proposal, we break down each. So for each property, we'll break them down to like on-premise selling, high impact brand visibility, social digital media, and like influencer marketing. So we just give our ideas for each of those categories. And yeah, like Mitch has taught me so much stuff as well. I guess what Evan Colborn taught him, he passed down to me. A lot of it's just like making about them. So, I go on the website and I kind of copy their like website layout. So for when I make the proposal, I'll copy the same exact website layout and put like and just have the whole like overview on that. And yeah, it's just a lot of it's speaking about them, and also coming up with like unique ideas, like brand activation ideas for them. You really want to make it unique because that's what they love, and you don't want to really give like this kind of what everyone else would do. You really want to make it unique for them. So a lot of it's just making about the brand itself.
So, what are some of the benefits of sponsorship? And in your opinions, why should businesses consider partnering with sports teams as a potential avenue?
I think, on a wider scale, I think sports are so popular, and definitely I think we're seeing a trend in which like younger kids, like Gen Zers, are kind of moving towards like idolizing athletes, and they develop like loyalty to teams based on the athletes they like rather than the teams themselves. So, if your team sponsors something and one of your players is walking around in it, that might entice those younger generations to maybe like look into that brand at least, and then start to develop their own perceptions about it, and then hopefully buy it. But I think partnering with sports and then esports too can be so beneficial. Like I came across this like chip brand or like snack roll thing that, and they partnered with Call of Duty, and so if you bought this specific like pizza roll box, you could get downloadable items for Call of Duty. And with the new Call of Duty releasing in a few weeks or months, I think that was just such a smart idea. And there's just so many unique ways to go about it that can be just so beneficial, both the brand and the property.
Yeah, I think increasing brand awareness and then building that loyalty are two big things that brands can do when they're sponsoring sport. As everyone knows, sport fans are super passionate about the teams that they follow and the players that they follow, and you kind of just want to attach, like brands want to attach themselves to that loyalty, to that passion. You want to become involved with that, and that's where I see the most value in sponsoring in sport, especially when you talk about brand awareness. We're reaching out to tier 2 and tier 3 brands. Not a lot of people have heard about these brands or know about their products. So when you're partnering with our properties, you are going to increase your brand visibility and your brand awareness, and build some loyal consumers.
Yeah, and to echo what both those guys said, I think it's just a really great opportunity for some of these brands to tell their own story through sport. I think, as all of us know, I think some of the best stories we've ever heard are sports related, or ones we're witnessing even now, right? So I just think it's an awesome opportunity for brands to just get involved and tell their story, and or be involved into that team's or that player's story, however it is, because I think that's what gets the eyeballs on your brand, and that's what's going to get people to engage with you.
Yeah, and I think just back to a point I mentioned earlier, it's just like sports is just such a unique category that like a lot of brands haven't even reached out to sports or went into that market yet. So I think it's a really unique opportunity for all these brands. And again, as Michael said, all these sports fans, it brings in like loyalty and stuff, which is a strong point for all these brands. And back to that unique point, for example, like the esports category, as Mackenzie mentioned, you have like Bell making for the Raptors esports team, like the Bell 5 house. And like for me, for example, I was like, man, maybe I should get this Bell Wi-Fi because this esports team are using it. So it's just it's a really great and unique way for these brands to promote their stuff into the market nowadays.
I just have a follow-up question. How do you think those same benefits are kind of shifting? I know like Gavin's kind of big recently on communicating this, but how have those benefits shifted from like in-person to digital nowadays? And like, what are some examples of some of the things they're doing in that side?
I think digitally, like you're seeing a lot of sponsorship maybe being incorporated into TV programs. Like I know during the NBA playoffs, FanDuel partnered with Inside the NBA on TNT, and so during the pregame segment and stuff, they were listing FanDuel odds. And so if you're a bettor, you're like, oh, maybe that's a really good line with FanDuel. Like maybe I'll shift over my sports book to there, and as well just the NBA in the bubble. I know I personally saw like a few photos and stuff, and maybe it wasn't planned, or maybe it was, who knows what the marketing strategy was, but they partnered with Clorox and, for disinfectant wipes, which was obviously all so important when you're trying to have no corona cases within the bubble. But that also makes you think, oh, if Clorox is keeping them so safe and clean, like they've had no positive cases, like I'm going to go buy Clorox. Like that's proven to work.
I think another big thing to consider is if you think about any team and you think about like their Instagram account, they've got more followers on their Instagram than they have people at their games. So I think that's like and that's just one thing, right? You still have Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is. So I think just being able to be digital and activate digitally is so huge because you're reaching a wider audience. Obviously, I mean, it isn't necessarily the same thing as an in-person activation, but the way things are going now, like you can pretty much do anything, right? So obviously esports kind of stands out as being able to do some really cool things, but there's no reason that a regular sports team can't do anything to engage its fans online either, and then that gives brands just a big bonus in terms of partnering with them.
Yeah, and I think now because of COVID and stuff, a lot of sports are streamed now. So a lot of companies are doing banners and stuff during those streams and like interactive halftime stuff. And again, off that Instagram and just social media point, these companies, sports teams have huge followings. So just interacting with fans during the game and like just not during the games. Like companies have like Wallpaper Wednesday or whatever. Just anything to do with like connecting with the fans on social media, and again during in games, like a lot of the stuff's are streams now, so just connecting with the fans digitally any way they can.
Yeah, we're definitely in unique times right now with fans not being allowed in seats. They're very hungry for content. So one of the things that Gavin's been an advocate for is influencer marketing too. So whether it's our esports property, our soccer property, our hockey property, it's just kind of attaching the sponsor's brand to these players and having them, whether it's just a simple post, a video with the product, some type of special giveaway, just something that's attached with these high level athletes. It's going to get a lot of traction. So that's just something that we've been focused on right now, just as a specific example.
Just kind of jumping off of Mitch and Ned's point, we've always had an audience-focused approach, and those social media accounts are always delivering those same audiences, if not larger. So it doesn't really change the way that we're approaching it. We're just going at it online rather than in person.
Awesome. Okay, so my next question is for all of you. So what is one activation you can think of that you've seen where you thought, like, wow, that was a great idea, or something cool that, we could even try at Cosmos?
For me, I think one of the funner ones I've seen was when I was at Dow for my undergrad at basketball games. Subway is a big sponsor of Atlantic University Sport, the AUS, and so they would have this thing called Build a Sub, and so the game day staff at whatever game or whatever school you're at would choose. They'd find like two sets of friends in the stand. So it'd be a team of two versus a team of two. And one person was the bottom bun. And so they would basically just have to lie there. And then the other person was the top bun of the sub. And the person that was the top bun was running suicide. So they'd have to like run all the way to the baseline if it was a basketball game, like get the ham, run back, put it on their friend who's lying there, then run, get the lettuce, run, get the tomato, and then it's a race to see who can complete their sub. And all the time, it was always really close. So you'd see friends just jump in to try and land on each other. And the fact that the game day staff like chose friends to do it, and no one was afraid to injure each other. They wanted the free Subway gift card, which was for the winners. And so it was just a really fun halftime thing to watch, and watching people go all out dressed as a sub was a pretty fun way to get that brand across.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, since nothing's going on, I can't really see some of the activations that Cosmos is doing like right now at the moment with some of these teams, but Mitch and Ned are great with coming up with like creative ideas. And one of the ones we recently came up with that we're putting in an overview is like this company that has a kind of like a flat product, and we thought of like using that product at like a rush game, like the Ultimate Frisbee, to play like Can Jam with. So I just thought that was just kind of like a funny, cool one, like that is just like perfect for something like Ultimate Frisbee.
My favorite activation, going back to my time with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, they have a law group that sponsors them. They're named Finley Law, and they actually sponsor an entire section to be a non-alcoholic section. And as unfun as that might sound to some people, if you've ever been to a Ticats game, things get pretty rowdy. So having a safe space for kids to sit with families and having a family-friendly space to attend the game is really important. And that section also backs onto a playground. It's the only stadium in North America that has a playground in the stadium. So that's also a really unique feature, and they sponsor that stadium and allow kids to go play during the game and all that type of stuff if they didn't want to watch the game. And that's just a really cool activation that I've seen in my time in sports.
One that I saw recently that I absolutely loved was Burger King. They partnered with I think like Stevenage FC. They're in like the 4th league in English football or soccer. And from like just from face value, it didn't look like anything that serious. But then they really activated through FIFA 20, like the game. So generally, a lot of people like to take one of those kind of lower end teams and kind of build them up to the top. And then Burger King was promoting different challenges and whatnot to gamers to be able to do that. And they had their logo on like the team jersey and whatnot. So people would be playing with this team, and then now all online on social, like that team was trending, and Burger King was all over their stuff. So I thought that was a really, really cool activation. It was probably not much investment for Burger King and probably got them a ton of attention. But then at the same time, it probably did a lot for the team as well in terms of the support that they got. So I thought that one was really, really cool.
Yeah, for me, there's a small one, Toronto Raptors that they did for like halftime. I forgot the exact brand, but it was basically the items would like parachute off the top. So like when it was like a bunch of them parachuted down, like all the fans got lively and stuff, and like the whole arena was just like going crazy for that product. I forgot exactly what, I think it was just a t-shirt wrapped up, but a lot of people went crazy for that. And like just like a general thing, like I'm a huge basketball fan, so during like All-Star weekends, every year there's like all these brands that do like crazy stuff. They spend a lot of money on brand activations for the All-Star weekend. So like American Express, for example, they had like a whole like booth thing where it's like you go and it's like a bunch of sensory things that you can touch. A lot of just stuff for fans to engage with. There's like Xbox, for example, they had like a Xbox barbershop. So like play like James Harden stuff would be like playing Xbox while getting a haircut and stuff. Just a unique way for fans to connect with these brands. And, you know, just it gets the brands in their mind basically. So that's just one point I had as well.
Yeah, for me, I have two. I have one that I've seen, and then one kind of similar to Tristan, one that we've pitched in the past that didn't end up by working out, but it still sticks in my mind as possibly one of the coolest activations ever. But the one that I've seen that I've liked, it's so simple, but the beer garden, just at rugby games and things like that, just a way to promote. Like Ned said, like those tier 2, tier 3 beer companies or something like that, and it creates that party atmosphere, it gets people together, it's just an exciting overall atmosphere, especially at Cosmos where we're focused mainly on the experience. It's not all about winning and losing. It's not all about the product on the ice or on the field like that. It's just about making the best possible experience for the fans so that they come back. And kind of tying in with that, the activation that we pitched about a year ago was to Palladium. And it was to kind of, for listeners out there, it was to kind of turn the CA Center, which it's a multi-purpose facility in Brampton. It's got about 1.2 million visitors each year. It's got four full ice pads. It's a huge multi-purpose facility, and it was just kind of turning the concourse into a giant arcade. So because Palladium, it's an arcade company, so just literally taking Palladium and almost putting it in the concourse where fans can activate and enjoy the game, and then when they come into the concourse, you know, between periods or even during the game, it's just a way to engage like I would have never seen before, just with the lights and the coloring and all the games there. Have been really cool to see.
Mine's a little close to home. It's similar like what Michael said with a law firm sponsoring in a part of a section. Mine was actually the home hardware ground crew with the Jays. And because that was my first job, and if I said I was on the grounds crew, no one knew what it was. But the second I said I was the home hardware, it's like, you're the fastest people ever. Like, you're running on, like, people used to cheer us on running onto the field, and kids used to line up because you used to pick a kid to come and change a base for certain games. And kids on junior J's would line up to get to be picked for that kid. And it's how into these kids, like when they're running out in the field, and we have to rake around first base for them, and the smile they would have on these faces, and the players, they would high five the kids as they run back through the dugout, and seeing how into this got and how like rowdy fans got, even if they were just like making fun of us, it's still during every 3 innings, fans were cheering us on, running. When we trip and fall, they laugh at us. Like, it's a way to just bring that excitement to the game. And that was one where it has nothing to do with baseball, but everybody knew who the home hardware grounds crew was. And it was one that, even though it's Honda that sponsors them now, people still refer to them as the home hardware grounds crew. And that's one that I've just loved because it's been such a legacy. Ooh, such a legacy, even though they don't even sponsor them anymore.
We might have like touched on this a little bit, but just wanted to ask it in like a proper question here. How has the process for finding sponsorship changed with COVID, and what has Cosmos done to adapt to that change?
I think, you know, we've talked about it so much, but just those in-person activations, that's just not happening right now. And you know, we're all hopeful and optimistic it'll come back, and it eventually will. But I think right now that's obviously the elephant in the room, and a lot of brands are like, well, are you going to play? Are there going to be fans in the stands? And to them, it's just so, and not to all brands, that was a bad generalization, but to some brands, it's just such sports equals fans equals eyeballs, and it's just that like linear line for them. And so I think trying to find and communicate, you know, there's so much more just other than having fans in a stadium. And we've talked about it, like the digital side and the posts and whatever digital concepts you can come up with. I think that's just so important to communicate, and trying to shift that thinking from just, oh, we need fans to be able to justify spending money.
Yeah, I think Mackenzie hit it on the nail there. And just to kind of piggyback onto that, I think just being kind of honest and understanding of a brand's position. Obviously, a lot of brands were hurt more than others. A lot of brands were helped by the pandemic, right? So just being like understanding of their situation, and a lot of times it's treating this kind of period as a luxury of time to plan ahead. A lot of times when you're talking to a brand, there might be, you know, a couple months leading into the season, and you're in a rush to try and get something together. Now, you know, we don't know when that season is going to be. And whether we do something in person or whether we do something digital, we can really use this time to work together to make something that's mutually beneficial for both parties.
Yeah, I think it definitely affects how you're doing your prospecting. When you're looking into different brands and trying to build out those lists, you also want to identify what they're up to, what they're doing at that time. So you can kind of put a little bit of a note in to your outreach to kind of say, like, we saw that you're still doing this, or we like, congratulations on staying open during this time. We know it's been difficult, all those types of things. Because yeah, different groups were affected differently by COVID, and it hasn't been easy for some groups, but some groups have certainly benefited. And so for me, a lot of my prospecting, I've been trying to focus on things that weren't hit as hard. So like appliances and home improvement and stuff like that. People are at home more often and spending time and doing those things. So they haven't been hit as hard because those are things that people are focused on right now. So just, it kind of affects how you prospect and what your outreach looks like.
Awesome. So what have you guys liked about working in sponsorship? I know Mitch and Ned, you guys are you've been in it a little bit longer than everyone else on the call. Michael, you just recently got in onto the scene, and then with Mackenzie and Vish, you know, being our rookies for the internship semester. What has been your favorite part, I guess, about working in sponsorship?
Yeah, my favorite part really is just you know, learning about these categories, these brands, and developing those relationships and those connections. I think kind of going into it, I think some people, obviously closing is amazing, but that doesn't always happen. And I think in sponsorship, especially, the sales cycle is a lot longer than anything else. So it really becomes kind of a commitment to the process. And you know, I enjoy I've come to kind of enjoy the process, and I enjoy making those connections, because I think even if something doesn't close today, that doesn't mean that you can't reconnect with that person a year from now, depending on the relationship that you've built, whether it's a year from now or 10 years from now, right? So yeah, just that relationship building and that learning has been like amazing for me.
Yeah, I would say everything that Ned said, and then just to jump on to that as well, or to add on to it, sorry, is just truly believing in what we can offer them and truly providing value for their product and for their brand. And then personally, I just love the challenge of getting doing all these proposals. Like, we get so many different industry categories coming through, so it's just trying to find that angle of how we can help them. I just love the creativity and the process that it takes to be able to provide that value.
Yeah, I've tried to take the most out of the entire process as I've gone along here, and really, the way that I see it is every single outreach that you make is an opportunity to provide value for that brand and for our company, and so I've really enjoyed that. And obviously, the relationship building aspect of it. Only had 2 meetings, but Leslie with Nanoleaf and Maddie with Alterna are fantastic people to have meetings with, and it's been really nice developing those relationships as well.
Personally, for me, I think it's kind of two-pronged. So definitely learning just so much about industries, and you want to personalize that outreach. So then you're looking into what brands are doing sponsorship-wise themselves, and what's happening in the industry. So just through research, you just already learned so much about the sponsorship space. But then also in our weekly team sponsorship calls, like hearing what Ned, Jordan, Michael, like all the brands they've come into contact to and that are interested, like never would have thought Nanoleaf would like even be remotely interested in something like that. And he brought it up at the meeting. I was like, that's so cool. And so just seeing what companies are, when you would think about it, like, oh, no chance, but here they are, like being brought up in our sponsorship meeting, and Michael's doing the outreach and the proposals and stuff. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I think for me, as I'm working with a lot of the decks, it's just about creating these ideas on how our Cosmos properties can help these brands. It's just really fun coming up with new ideas each time for different brands, and because there's so many categories that we work within, it's so many ideas that we got to make for these companies. So that's just a really fun part for me, for making these decks.
Yeah, I think for me, like I mentioned before, getting to do the South Asian side, it's getting to see totally different than what I've ever done before and worked with before, and just getting sort of that multicultural aspect of it and how things are done across the world, and learning about sponsorship from so many different viewpoints. That's been something that's been really interesting to learn about from my end.
Great. So one of my last questions here, what advice do you have for individuals who are looking to get into the sponsorship field?
Become an intern at Cosmos Sports. No, really, I think what you want to do is you want to be diligent in school, making those connections while you're at school, volunteering, getting a lot of experience so that you can find a good internship. I think the value of an internship while you're in a sport management program or a sports administration program is very high. You want to do one, and you want to get enough experience that you're able to get a good internship. And then after that, it's just about working hard and showing people that you can get results, and it's about working hard when people aren't looking as well. So that'd be my advice to anybody.
Yeah, to piggyback on what Michael said there, also just like networking, connecting with people in the industry, in the field, in sponsorship marketing. I think you can always, everyone has a different style in a way they go about things in sales and in sponsorship. So I think you can always learn something from anybody. So, always listening is huge. And then also doing whatever you can to kind of be ahead of everyone else in terms of trends going on in different industries, in sponsorship, whatever it is, whether it's tailored to a certain sport or esports or whatever it is, like, follow newsletters, follow things on LinkedIn, whatever it is, to just get that information coming so that you're on top of your game every week, every day.
Yeah, I think what Ned said is really important because, and kind of going off of Michael's point as well, like the internship is so crucial in developing that network. And, you want to show your best self when you show up to an interview. And so being on top of those trends and knowing what's happening in the sponsorship space, like you don't want to, like, probably a classic question is, oh, what's your, as we've done on here, like what's an activation you've really loved, or what's a sponsorship or partnership you've seen recently that you've loved. Like you don't want to be saying one from like the 2017 NBA playoffs. Like you want one that's really up to date and current and shows you're interested in it. And, you know, if you are interested in it, you should be subscribed to those newsletters. You should just be skimming them. Like you don't have to sit down for 2 hours every day combing through all of the internet, but just those quick hits can really make a difference.
Yeah, just bouncing off Mackenzie. Like for me, I'm like subscribed to Athletic, and you don't have to pay for all these newsletters, websites and apps and stuff. There's so much free content on like Twitter and stuff that you can learn so much from sponsorship. And like on LinkedIn too, there you can follow like for example the sponsorship space, where they just give you updates on all this sponsorship stuff within sports and other categories. And again, back to just networking stuff. Like for me, before I got into like the sports program at George Brown, like I was networking like crazy. I went to like a Ryerson marketing like 3-day event. I volunteered everywhere, like for the NBA, Canada basketball and stuff, just trying to make those network connections. So one day I could go to LinkedIn and like message them if they have any opportunities, and just them, they can remember me if they want to hire someone. And I, you know, like I reached out to like someone that works with athletes and stuff, asking if I could help out with them, just, you know, working for free. I know it doesn't sound the best, but sometimes you might have to do it just to make those connections, which is really huge in the sponsorship and just marketing world. And again, like this opportunity with Cosmos has been amazing, just because I've worked with so many companies and so many people here, just learning so much. Just those are some points.
Yeah, these guys all did a great job of touching on that answer there. The only other thing I would add is just believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You know, as Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So whether you're applying to an internship, you don't think you're going to get it, you should apply 100%, because you never know what's going to happen. And when you get there, don't be afraid to ask questions. Just be able to believe in your brand, and yeah.
Awesome. So that's it for today. So I just want to say thank you to Ned, Mitch, Michael, Mackenzie, and Vishwa for being on today's episode. Really appreciate you guys taking some time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this podcast. For any students who are looking for an internship, Cosmos is currently hiring. This is going to become a regular thing on this podcast where I mention this, but if you would like to apply, you can visit cosmosports.com on our internship page, or email me at osala@cosmosports.com or Michael at mbhunter@cosmosports.com. So that's it. So thanks again, everyone. I hope you have a great day and take care.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, that was so fun. Thanks, guys.